Okay, we have some breaking news tonight in Donald Trump's fight to appoint that special master to sort through the over 11,000 seized records from his Florida beach club. Over 11,000 records that include top secret and classified documents and empty folders. Moments ago, the Justice Department and Team Trump jointly filed their motion concerning that special master. Trump appointed Judge Eileen Cannon, asked the two sides to come together to suggest a list of people to potentially be that special master. And to no one's surprise, the two sides do not agree. This literally just in, hot off the presses. The Justice Department puts forth two former federal judges, the Honorable Barbara S. Jones and the Honorable Thomas B. Griffith. Interestingly enough, they were both appointed by Republican presidents, and Barbara Jones was a special master in the Michael Cohen and Rudy Giuliani investigation. Meanwhile, Team Trump has put forth the Honorable Raymond J. Dearie and Paul Huck Jr. A reminder that the final decision, if there is a special master, and that is a gigantic if here, because the DOJ is in the midst of fighting this special master ruling. But if there is one appointed, the buck stops with Judge Cannon. That is to say, if they don't agree, she gets the final word. Joining us once again is John Fishwick, former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of New York. Mr. Fishwick, it happened in this hour. Let's talk about these candidates that we have on the list here from the government's proposed candidates, the Honorable Barbara S. Jones, the Honorable Thomas B. Griffith, both appointed by Republican presidents. How do you read that?
Well, that goes back to my glass half full. I think it's impressive that DOJ would put up folks who have been appointed by the other party. I think that will help restore confidence in the system. And I think, that sends a strong message that they're confident in their position and they want to have somebody from the other party, originally appointed by the other party. So I think that's impressive.
And what of the plaintiffs' proposed candidates? The Honorable Raymond J. Dearie, former Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District, served on the FISA Court, and Paul Huck, founder of the Huck Law Firm, former Jones Day partner. I think this is relevant. Former general counsel to the governor, former deputy attorney general for the state of Florida. Is that a DeSantis person?
I don't know, but I think that person will be harder to be selected. And I would be surprised if the judge would select that person. I think that it's going to be a retired judge who's going to get the nod for this job.
What do you think? OK, they're also listed areas of substantive agreement between the parties. And I'm not going to lie, that's a very short section. Apparently, the parties agree on reducing the default 21-day review period to 10 days. That seems like not nothing, but not exactly a gigantic mutually agreed upon concession. Do you read that as significant?
Not really.
Okay. And then there are several pages of substantive disagreement between each party's proposed order. It appears that the scope of this is going to be largely contested, does it not? This is going to continue to go on.
Absolutely. I mean, the DOJ is going to want to move this promptly. They're going to want to make sure that they challenge all the privilege claims that Trump's team makes. And Trump's team is going to be trying to, raise privilege, try to prevent the documents from being used in the investigation. And I think they want to create a record for the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. So I think the parties are going to be locked in on this pretty hard. But at the end of the day, I think there may be opportunity here, and I am encouraged that DOJ put up two judges who have some Republican pedigree in their background. I think that's great, and I think that sends a strong and confident message about this process.
I will also note that it says explicitly in this, the plaintiff, that would be Team Trump, believes the government's objection to the special master reviewing documents they deem classified is misplaced. That is meaningful. That is the whole of the department's filing earlier this week. Just let us take hold of these 100 or so classified documents. They are critical to our national security review. We need to be able to work in tandem with the intelligence community's assessment. Let us have access to these 100 documents. It seems as if Team Trump is not on board with that, which is no surprise. But the buck, as we said, stops with Judge Cannon here. So what happens next, Mr. Fishwick? Who has the next play on this chessboard, and what is your expectation for Judge Cannon?
Yeah, I think it's unlikely they agree on somebody, but I think the judge will be a little bit boxed. I think Trump's team made a mistake not putting up two judges. I think it's going to be a retired judge. for there to be confidence in this, which means that the government's got a 2 in 3 chance and the Trump team's got a 1 in 3 chance. But she may have to break the tie. Trump team may realize that and negotiate a little bit. But I doubt they agree. I think they said they have till Monday to confer. I'd be surprised if they agree on somebody. And there's going to be a little pressure on her, I think, to pick one of the 2 that DOJ has put up because they have a Republican background.
Well, I will say one last piece before we go. The plaintiff contends a full review of all seized documents remains an important part of the special master's duty. They want a whole review of 11,000 documents. This could take an extraordinarily long time. We will see. The fight is not over. John Fishwick, former U.S. attorney for the Western District of Virginia, thank you for hanging with me this evening, and thanks for your expertise.